Welcome back to Wild Talk, guys. This week's episode, by the time you guys are watching this episode, I'm actually going to be overseas. So there's going to be some really cool stuff coming, so make sure that you stay tuned. I'm not going to reveal where it is yet, but it's exciting. I'm very excited to go. This week's episode is going to be an interesting one. You guys can kind of tell I am actually at my house right now. And the reason for that is I want to tackle a very specific topic. A very specific topic that's quite an infamous topic here in Queensland, here in Australia, but also other parts of Australia. And it is to do with cane toads. So cane toads, Runella marina, are actually not from Australia. They're an invasive species that have been introduced. They're originally from Central America and sort of South America as well. But they were introduced in 1935 to originally fight off the cane beetles. At the time of being introduced, there was roughly about 102 that were introduced. But now you can find them in hundreds of millions around sort of all across Australia. And it's a huge problem, you know, because they're actually a toxic toad. They carry a highly toxic poison. There are actually no animals here in Australia that can actually process the poisons. They've actually caused severe decline in native wildlife such as quolls, goannas, snakes, or all kinds, native frogs, and it's just, yeah, it's quite the big problem. Apart from native wildlife being affected, a few that I've named there, they're also a problem because they have no natural predators here in Australia. So that, combined with a high reproductive rate, they just spread super quick across Australia. They're actually also a highly toxic frog at every stage of their life. So even tadpoles are from the get-go quite toxic, and there's nothing that can even eat the tadpoles. They're able to also adapt and survive really harsh conditions. And you kind of see that across Australia and where they've actually spread to. They've made their way to quite significant parts of Australia. At the moment, they haven't gone too far south because they're not very cold tolerant, but they can survive some pretty hectic conditions. And essentially, they can eat anything that fits in their mouth. So it is quite a problem because if you are small enough, if like anything can fit in their mouth, they'll eat it. Because they were an introduced species as well, animals here in Australia are unfamiliar with their toxins, and they haven't actually been able to adapt or evolve to process these toxins. And so what happens is that a lot of native wildlife actually eat these toads and sustain ill effect or death, unfortunately. But yeah, as I said, they are not hard to find, and to prove that, I actually don't really have to go that far to find them. So we're gonna go have a look around in the garden to go find some cane toads, talk a bit about them, what they are, how their toxins work, how they are a threat to the ecosystem, and what we can do to potentially help our native wildlife. So let's get into it. All right, so to kick this off, we're literally just gonna cross the road here. You can already see here that there are cane toads that have been run over a lot recently. What I also wanted to say is that tonight specifically actually is 21 degrees, which actually has been one of the coldest nights so far at this particular time of the night. So you can I hope you guys can kind of see, we've got quite a hot week, 28, 29, 30, 28, 29, 29, and mostly sunny. So these animals are actually nocturnal, and you know, here's one already that we can see. There's just one there. Yeah, so these guys come out at nighttime, and so there's more there. There's one here, apart from the one that we just saw over there. There's one there. But what I wanted to say is that because the weather is slightly a little bit colder, there haven't been as many come out tonight specifically compared to how many I typically see in a night. Nonetheless, I'm gonna showcase them to you guys because they are out and about. And let's see what we can find. To actually show you guys what I was sort of talking about here. I just want to grab some gloves out quickly to put them on, because we are dealing with quite a toxic toad, and I just don't want it to get all over my fingers and things. But I want to demonstrate to you guys a little bit about their anatomy and why they're such hardy animals. This guy here is a relatively large specimen, but hopefully I can show you guys here in this light a little bit. So what you guys can see here is that these toads are actually quite big. This one isn't even fully grown, but you can see that he already takes up the space of my whole hand. They're quite a stocky build, quite a fat little toad. They've got these beautiful eyes. Actually, I'm in love with their eyes. They're this gold color, which is incredible. But yeah, extremely warty, tough skin. And here, I'm gonna put this up to my mic, but if I tap on the head, you can hear very bony structured heads. Another thing that you'll be able to see here is actually here you can actually see that they've got these strawberry looking glands here, strawberry shaped glands here on the sides of their heads. And so here where the strawberry glands are is actually their where their poison is stored. So in the frog you can kind of see there the poison glands are here. And so the difference between frogs and snakes is that toads and frogs, or amphibians, have poison, whereas snakes have venom. And the difference between that is that poison is ingested and venom is injected. And so for an animal like this, being a frog, things want to eat this little guy. So the poison actually works when it's ingested, rather than being injected like with snakes. You can see right now he's puffing himself up, filling himself with air, so he's hard to swallow. You can kind of hear him as well. But yeah, underneath the frog, they actually have quite a soft underside, quite a soft underbelly. And here as well, you can see that they've got massive mouths. So anything that can fit in there, it'll eat. I know of them eating things like birds, small mammals, all kinds of insects, snakes, literally anything that they can fit in their mouth, they will have a go at it. But yeah, let me hopefully showcase these poison glands. So if I squeeze on these glands here on the side, you can kind of see that white sort of pus that comes out here. That's all the poison on the glands there. So hopefully it picks it up, but that is disgusting. That's why I'm wearing gloves, because I just don't want to touch this, Another interesting thing about these toads is, because they're poisonous, they know that. And they know nothing's going to eat them. And so they're not very fast. They're not quick moving. They kind of just sit there. This one here, for example, I can literally walk straight up to him. Touch him, and he just doesn't move. He just sits there. So yeah, it's another interesting thing that I've found about these toads. Here's another one. You can walk straight up to him and he just sits there. I was sort of wondering, where I want to go and look for these toads. And you guys would have seen them across the videos when I go out at nighttime, that they're what you sort of call generalist. Because they're such a hardy frog, adapts so well to the ecosystems, you can literally find them anywhere. And that's what I mean by generalist, is they don't require a specific habitat. There's one there, there's one there, there's one there, there's another one just hopping over there. And this is just at my house. If you go to the wetlands and things like that, obviously frogs breed by laying eggs which turn into tadpoles and then into the frog itself. And so typically where you find anything water, you'll find frogs, and cane toads are one of those. You can see one just sitting right here again. Like, they're not hard to come across, and I'm sure you guys who are watching this video already know the struggles. But for those of you who aren't aware of cane toads or have never known what they're like or a bit about them, this is that opportunity for you to see how bad of a problem it actually is here in Australia, unfortunately. I reckon what I'm going to do is I'm going to make myself a competition just to see how many cane toads I can spot just in this little area in front of my house, and then we'll go into the back garden and see how many we can find there as well. Let's start off with that one over there. I see one just sitting right over there. That's one. That's two over there. That's three over there. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's 10 over there. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 through there, 17. I lost count, but I think we are up to 18, 19, 20, 21, 22 in that corner, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, and I'm probably gonna stop there because, yeah, there's just so many. Yeah, it's just crazy to see because, you know, that was probably 5 minutes where I just quickly walked around. I didn't even take much time to look too hard for them. But those, you know, this is a quiet night as well. So cane toads come in a range of colors and sizes, commonly found between 10 and 15 centimeters, but some reaching well over 20 centimeters and weighing over a kg. You can just see here the one that my mate and I caught. It was gigantic. I mentioned before that they're a toxic toad, producing bufotoxins that are potent enough to kill things like dogs, cats, iguanas, snakes, and even freshwater crocodiles. This is a great example I was able to get of the poison just sitting on the outside of the glands there. When they were first released in Queensland, they adapted so well that they were spreading at rates over 40 to 60 kilometers per year. You find them in Queensland, the NT, northern WA, and parts of New South Wales as they're continuing to spread. These toads are capable of laying up to 30,000 eggs at a time, multiple times throughout the year, and they can live up to 15 years in the wild. To me, those are alarming statistics when you remember that they have no true predators here in Australia to control their numbers. Although they have no true Australian predators that actively eat the cane toads, they have some native species that have begun adapting rapidly to the toads. You can see it in swamp hens, where they've learned to bash the toads against concrete to excrete the poisons before washing them and eating them. You see the Rokali water rats flipping them over and eating their stomachs. My favorite adaptations are in reptiles though, where red bellies over time have had their head sizes shrink through generations so that cane toads can't actually fit in their mouths. You guys have seen quite a few of these across the channel by now, but so this is the keelback, Tropidognophis maryi, otherwise known as a freshwater snake. These guys get their name from their keeled scales that help these snakes in aquatic environments, such as here in the wetland I was at. These guys are a part of the colubrid family and are non-venomous and harmless to people. These guys actually get mistaken really easily for highly venomous rough-scaled snakes, so it's important to ID these snakes properly and not to touch or play with these snakes if you're not licensed or trained to do so. These guys are known to be diurnal, which means they're active during the day. It's actually kind of funny because I had this conversation when I was down in Sydney with Jesse, And I was telling him how I never find any during the day and always find so many at night time here in southeast Queensland. I think it's because of the weather mainly and how warm it is during the day in Sydney and cold at night, whereas here in southeast Queensland, the nights maintain their heat really well. Good enough for them to come out at night time. Obviously, these guys eat a lot of frogs, and that's why you can find them in these wetland areas. And apart from fun facts like the snake being able to drop its tail like a lizard, these snakes have a huge power up its scales. They are the only native Australian animals that have the ability to eat cane toads and sustain no ill effect. And the reason for this is because of their genus extending out of Asia, where other species of keelbacks prey on toxic toads as their food sources. And so therefore they have the ability to process toxins. It was found out that the Australian keelback also is able to process these toxins, much like its cousins, and so therefore can actually eat the cane toads and be fine. This makes this species the first line of defense against the toads, and why it's so important not to kill these guys if you ever come across them. This particular individual actually was the most still a keelback has ever sat for me, by the way. And it gives you an opportunity to admire these amazing creatures and how important they are for the ecosystem. Another really cool thing I love about keelbacks is you can always see them looking happy. They always look like they have a smile on their face. And I love finding these guys. Even though they're so common to find, they're probably the most common snake you'll find around water. I just love finding these guys all the time. One final thing I'll touch on when it comes to the cane toads are symptoms your pets are likely to experience when they come into contact with these animals. With how abundant these toads are, your pets are very likely to come into contact with one, and so if they do, early signs are things such as drooling or frothing at the mouth, pawing at the mouth, bright red gums, and even vomiting. Some more serious signs include things like having a rapid heart rate, muscle tremors, disorientation, staggering or collapsing, seizures, or difficulty breathing. There have been recorded deaths of animals from the cane toads within 30 to 60 minutes if left untreated, so just be mindful so that your animals can be safe. If your animals do come in contact with a toad, it is important to wipe their mouth immediately, remove the foam, stay calm, and get them to a vet as soon as possible. There are methods to help keep toads away from your yards. However, no effective strategy has been found on how we as a people can get rid of toads fully here in Australia. Australia has given up on fully getting rid of these invasive creatures and have now focused on trying to limit populations from increasing and spreading to more parts of Australia. There is hope for Australia and hope seen in the native wildlife as they've begun to learn of the threat cane toads pose to them, adapting and passing on their knowledge to future generations. And that is it for this week's video, guys. Thank you guys so much for joining in yet again. I hope you guys learned something new about this. I know it's a very common problem here in Queensland and across certain parts of Australia where these things are quite common. So yeah, keep your animals safe, keep yourselves safe. Obviously, like I said before, by the time you guys are seeing this, I'm actually not going to be here. I'm going to be overseas for a period of around 10 days. So I'm not going to spoil it, but if you guys are interested to see where I'm going to be, go check out the Instagram. I'll be posting as much as I can on there. You guys will be able to see where I am from there. But with a little bit of patience, some banger videos are going to be coming out. So stay tuned, guys. But for now, I hope you guys have a lovely rest of your week and enjoy your Chrissy. Until next time, guys. Ciao.